All right, hi. Purpose of this video is to show how you can use musical time and have an independent control of note durations from note values. So say you want to have something be staccato versus legato, or even if you want to have something hold longer than the note value, but be based on the tempo relative time value that you're using in your sequence. So this is where I left off using musical time and the tab object. I've rearranged some things, cleaned some things up. I've made a giant toggle to turn the transport on and off. I've moved the line functions down. So this one changes tempo. This is the one I was using for velocity, for crescendo, decrescendo. And I'm using send and receive objects. It just sort of cleans this up a little bit. So I can focus on the rhythm part, duration part. So I made the tab over here. I've also changed the pattern for what that's worth. So as we go through, going to think about it a little bit. I can't do mathematical operations on symbols, which is what note values are in musical time. Tempo relative time, these 8n, 4n, 8nt, those are symbols. I can't do math. I can't say take 1/2 of 8n, but I can convert them into a format that allows me to do math, and that's ticks, which is divisions of the quarter note, 480 ticks per quarter note. And while I have to use the symbol ticks after the number to tell objects I'm using tempo relative time, I can do math on the numbers and then add the symbol ticks afterwards. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this tab object, because I'm going to create a second tab object that corresponds to the note values. So option drag and copy everything. I don't need the load mess, because what I'm going to do is use the index output of tab to link these two. So whatever I choose here is going to choose the same corresponding item in the index down here. All right. Now I can unlock, and I need to change these values into the corresponding amounts of ticks. So select this, go to my inspector, down under the value and tab items, I'm going to edit this and replace. So a quarter note I set is 480 space. The eighth note is 240 space. A triplet eighth note is 160, and a 16 note is 120 ticks. Now I'm not putting ticks in here because I want this to come out as numbers that I can operate on. Durations is ticks. Not going to send this. I'm going to output the contents into an integer number box, which will show me the 480, 240, whatever I want to do. Right. Now, I want to hook up some multiplication object so I can control the percentage. And I'm saying percentage, but I'm going to do it as a decimal. So 100% is 1, 50% is 0.5, etc. So new object, multiply times 1. So the duration will usually be full duration. I can add a floating point number so I can change that. And then I'm going to see ticks. And really, although I'm doing my math, I have to do my math in floating point because I'm doing percentages of 1. I'm going to change this back to an integer, because I think ticks need to be as integers as they go through. So in this case, if I select ticks still in the bottom, shows me if I type a value in here, say 0.5, choose a value, I get 80 if I choose 160. Now, if I want to be able to change this as it's playing, and I drag this, I'm not getting any new output because this is the cold inlet. So it's not triggering the calculation or re-triggering the calculation. So I'm going to go up here, or go back to this. And what I need to do is, after I send this, I need to send a bang to re-trigger. Send that to this because it stores the input number. And come out of the edit window. And you can see as I change things, it's re-triggering wherever I am. Now I need to change because now I'm going to have a different value being sent for the metro and different than the value that's being sent to the manknote. So I'm going to change my sends and receives. And I'm going to say the top one is metro speed. And I'm going to go right away and change it. It's a receive object to metro speed. Down here, I'm going to do a couple more things. I'm going to use an append object. Append just takes whatever argument comes in and it adds to the end. It appends anything, symbol, number, whatever. I need to append the symbol ticks. And then send that to note duration. And over here, change that corresponding receive object to note duration. Now it's hard to see that that's actually happening, so I'm going to add a message object, expand a little bit, and plug into the right inlet, which will update the contents of the message but not output it. So as I do this now, you can see that's what's coming is the number of ticks with the word ticks afterwards. That's being sent, and that's going to change your duration. So change that back to 1. If I start, now I can shorten independently. I can even, like I said before, make this longer. And what you're still going to hear, because of the quality of the synthesizer, it's getting confused and it's cutting off. For instance, when this note holds, the first note in the pattern, and the second one starts, this first one, if it cuts off after the second one starts, it's cutting off both. And that's just synthesizer. You can't count on that, depending on what you're using. But this gives me independent control. Now I'm going to make a few things to clean it up just before I do. I don't want to select ticks different from selecting note values. So I need to make this tab not respond to mouse clicks. Select it. And up under behavior, which is after appearance, I can say ignore click. Now if I go to edit, I can click anywhere on here and it's not changing. So it gets its selection from this index number of this selection being passed on. That helps. The other thing is I want to make sure sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't, depending on how these things get moved around, the order gets out of whack. So I'm going to ensure that the order is always the same. And I'm going to delete my patch chords, even delete the bang. And I'm going to add a trigger object, so T for trigger, and I'm going to tell it what I want it to send in right to left order. So I want it to send the float to the multiplication object and then a bang to the left inlet of multiplication. So the bang is second, the float is first, reading right to left. So whenever the float comes in, it's getting copied out the right and sent here. The bang then is sent to the left inlet, recalculates. And this just makes for a more bulletproof change as I'm going through. So if I go and do this, now let's go back to eighth notes, and you can see this switches again, and I can't change it. And I restart. Percentage of duration stays the same. Make it a little bit longer. Make it a lot shorter. And so this is just a way of controlling duration. I could use a MIDI controller, I could use a slider, any other things, and I'll talk about that a little bit in class, but this just gives me a way of changing the percentage of duration given a relative note value. All right, I'll post a copy of this and see you soon.